Today we're going to be talking about how to transfer your drawing onto another piece of paper. First, we'll start with a few examples on why you should do this. Example 1 is turning your original graphite drawing into an ink drawing or some other medium on a different piece of paper. So here I have an example of a graphite chicken skull, which I put a lot of time and measurements into to make a detailed drawing, but I want to do it as an ink piece. So I make a transfer of this using tracing paper. I trace all the shapes, not just the outline, and then put it onto a new piece of paper. I used Bristol board. This creates an outline I can then ink on top of. So here I have now the completed ink piece from the original graphite drawing, but there's no graphite on this paper. It creates a nice clean ink drawing with all the same measurements. This helps save a lot of time. Example 2, you can mirror your original drawing. Here I have an ammonite, and I wanted to use this to create a mirrored colored pencil piece. And here it is here. As you can see, it would be quite difficult to do all these exact measurements twice and then mirroring each other. So what I did was just do these outlined edges from the original drawing. And this is the piece of paper I used. I did not use all of the details on it. I just used the outer edges, pressed it down, and some of the inside ones as well, then flipped it over and repeated that process. Again, this saved me a lot of time and kept all the exact measurements. A third example is you can combine numerous drawings together. Here I had 3 pinecone drawings which are done on separate pieces of paper, but I wanted to combine them into one colored pencil piece. So I made transfers of each drawing and then combined them onto one illustration board. And here are my transfers. With these I kept a lot of detail in them and even included some shading. I cut out these transfers, which also allowed me to move them around onto the illustration board and find the exact composition I wanted. So to start, we're going to use the original pinecone drawing I did in the last video. You can use any drawing you'd like. You'll want to tape down your original drawing onto a smooth, flat surface and tape down all the corners to make sure it's secure. Get a piece of tracing paper and tape it on top as well. You want to make sure all sides are secure. Then you just trace all the shapes you like. You can do an outline if you just want an outline, or the entire piece. I'm going over and doing all the large shadow pieces and the outline as well. You can do this on a well-lit surface or a light box if you have a light box, or perhaps go to a window. I decided to complete this tracing onto a bright window. I'm using an HB pencil. It doesn't really matter what type you use, but this is a basic pencil type. I always work left to right, top to bottom to prevent any graphite smudging. And as you get closer to the end, you'll want to lift up a corner to make sure you got all the lines you needed. I brought it back to my table to do one final check through and make sure I had all my lines traced. I'm also adding in a few details because I am going to do an ink drawing with this and I'd like this to be as detailed as possible. So now that my top layer is done, I'm going to flip it over and then trace the underside. And this will create our transfer. We want to have both sides of the tracing paper covered in graphite. Again, make sure all sides of the tracing paper are secure, and be sure to work on either a scrap piece of paper or cardboard, again with a smooth, flat surface. I am going over this side with a softer 3B pencil. It makes it a bit easier for the graphite to stick to the Bristol paper that I'll be transferring to because it's a bit softer and looser. You don't need to press too hard while doing this, just an even tone works great. And again, always working left to right, top to bottom, if you are right-handed, to prevent smudging. So again, I pulled this up and there was a light transfer on the bottom of this paper, but it is ready to be used. So I'm going to transfer this onto a piece of Bristol paper for an ink drawing. And again, you'll want to secure your drawing paper down on all edges and make sure that it's on a smooth surface. And this is also the fun part. You can kind of figure out how you want your composition to be. You can have it upside down at any angle, having it reversed. However you want it, you can do. And I kind of like going with an angle. Secure all the edges down. Make sure it's smooth. And then you want to push the graphite down. You want to use any type of rounded edge that's smooth. I'm using a gel pen cap, but you could use, I've used scissors before, anything that's round, not sharp. But I realized I put the wrong side down. I'm just going to flip it over real quick. And I'm just taking this edge of the pen cap and going over all of the lines that I traced. And this is pushing the graphite of the 3B pencil on the other side of the tracing paper down into the Bristol paper, creating a transfer. The good thing about this is it doesn't leave any type of indentation, which would normally happen if you draw directly onto the Bristol paper. So this is the least invasive and cleanest way to have a graphite drawing onto a piece of paper. And you don't need to press too hard, just evenly throughout. And using an object like this, kind of going over the lines a bit jagged, will smudge the top layer, but that's totally fine. And if you had included a lot of shadows in your transfer tracing, go over all those shadowed areas with your pen cap or whatever you're using to press the graphite into the paper. And once you get to the end, again, lift up the corners to make sure you have got all the lines. You'll see a light transfer below, but you might see some lines missing, and you just go over those areas and press it down. And there we have a transfer. So this piece is ready to be inked. I'm going to do another example for a color pencil drawing, which I'm not including in this video, but here's another way you can transfer it. Instead of using a object to push the graphite in, you can just use a pencil and going over the lines directly. This is great if you're going to use the transfer multiple times, because then you're actually putting more graphite onto the lines and you can keep flipping it and using it over and over. Again, you don't want to press too hard to warp or tear your tracing paper. And I used an HB pencil for this tracing. And so now I have two transfers. So to ink this transfer piece, I am just going over, using the stippling method with a micron pen, over all my lines, to then replace the graphite outlines with ink. This first step is not too detailed. Just covering the shadows, just doing the outlines. So as you can tell, I've already saved a lot of time in creating this whole second piece, but not having to redraw the entire pine cone. Using the transfer method is also really good if you want to experiment in a variety of mediums. Say you want to use the same subject, but do one in ink, do one in color pencil, do one in gouache or acrylic. You can transfer onto any surface. It doesn't have to be paper. You can do wood, canvas, anything which graphite sticks to. So now that I got the first layer over, I am going to erase all the graphite. With all the graphite gone, now I'm just using my original graphite drawing as a reference, the original reference photo if you still have one or if you took one, and perhaps the original specimen. Now, I did this drawing about a week later, and so my pinecone actually changed quite a bit. It opened up a lot more than when I did this original drawing. So I'm just using my photo reference and my original graphite drawing as a reference. And I'm just building up the dark areas with the pen. And about after 2 hours, this piece is done. Here's the step-by-step process. Add the graphite drawing, create a transfer, and then create an entirely different ink piece with the same drawing. This saved a lot of time, but created 2 really different pieces. I hope this was informational. Thank you for watching.